The following is a presentation of WLCN 96.3 FM and WLCNonline.com. This live video stream is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, and online at merealty.com. It is 2 minutes past 4 o'clock, time for the 4 p.m. 411. My name is Loyd Kirby. I am your host, also the marketing manager here at WLCN, and for the next half hour, this is the 4 p.m. 411, where we talk with folks from the community, from the area, public officials, folks with different things going on, and I believe today we have our first three-time guest. I think you're the first person who's dared to come back here a third time, so I don't know if you're brave or crazy or maybe a little both, but Police Chief Joe Meister is our guest today. Chief Meister, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And if you have questions or comments or just information you're wanting to seek from Chief Meister, 217-648-5510, the number to call. Or you can also send us an email at 4pm411 at WLCNonline.com. So as I explained to Chief Meister before we went on the air, and I think maybe in the email that we volleyed back and forth, recently there was a police incident. I don't know what the right term is, but something happened involving the police where your officers were active and conducting search or activities out in the community, and I had noticed on my own personal cell phone, I subscribe to, is it called Nixly or Nixle? Nixle? The Nixle app, where different public notifications will go out. A lot of times it's been used for severe weather, but I scrolled back and saw there were like missing persons, endangered persons, possible endangered persons, and different things like that. And it just got me to thinking, because I hopped onto social media and I saw also in several public groups, what's the big helicopter doing over on the north edge of town or wherever it was, and of course once the question gets asked, there are all sorts of responses with varying degrees of knowledge, I guess, and speculation. Always. So I know when you came into office, which you're approaching your 1-year anniversary, is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, as the chief, January 1st. In
January. I know one of the things you had mentioned was trying to be more transparent, I guess, as far as department activities, keeping the public informed of things that were going on. So just sort of all those things kind of came together and got me to thinking in terms of notifying the public about incidents or activities or whatever it is. I know you have to balance public safety versus, not compromising investigations and ongoing operations, but how do you determine what to tell the public, when to tell the public, or are there certain criteria that maybe escalate a situation to being more worthy of being mentioned? How do you make those determinations?
Absolutely. So you use the factors at hand at the time to determine whether or not the public needs to know, if they do need to know, what they need to know, and then we'd utilize something like Nixle or Facebook page. We don't have Instagram, but outlets like that to get information out. In this particular incident, there was nothing really but speculation being shared on social media. Mm-hmm. Nobody really had too many of the facts straight. I was able to determine almost immediately that there was no threat to the general public with this incident. It was a homicide that occurred on the north end of Lincoln. But the suspect and victim were both known to us at the time. There were no weapons involved in that incident, and there was no other threat to another person. Simply the suspect and victim knew each other.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so I guess right there, just kind of from your answer as far as public safety goes, if there are weapons or things involved, that certainly is a factor. And kind of like you mentioned, whether it's more of a public threat versus personal confrontation or situation.
Correct. You know, maybe something like a road rage incident where two people don't know one another, and you know, a weapon's introduced in a situation like that, and then the suspect flees the scene. That person's a danger to everyone or anyone at the time. But a domestic situation where the only people involved are household members, not so much of a threat to the general public.
Sure. Okay. And once again, if you have questions or comments, want to join the conversation, 217-648-5510, the number to call. Just in terms of Lincoln in general, like we said, you're kind of approaching your 1-year anniversary here. Seems to me like you've not necessarily inherited, but once you came in, it seems like there have been several not necessarily high profile, but maybe more escalated incidents than there had been in the past few years. Is that an accurate statement?
Sure, it is, and really it's going on everywhere. That's not just isolated to Lincoln. Communities our size are seeing higher crime, and it's just the societal change that we're experiencing now.
And is that, and I don't know, maybe you don't have these facts off the top of your tongue, off the top of your head, but in terms of crimes, are there certain types of crimes that seem to be escalating more, or is it just sort of an overall trend that everything is kind of on an upward?
It's an overall trend, but I would say narcotics crimes are occurring at a higher rate than what we had ever experienced before. There's more drug use and less penalty for being caught, and obviously on the other end of that will increase supply and demand. You know, if people want it, somebody's going to make them pay for it. So.
Right. Okay. And has there been? I'm not quite sure how to say this, but not specific to this department, but I mean there have been, like you mentioned, things society-wide that have been going on. Has, for example, the bond issue, forgetting the name of it right now.
The Pretrial Fairness Act.
Right, yeah. Right. What's the acronym, though, that people...
Safety Act.
Safety Act, yes. Yeah. Has that impacted things as far as from your side of the process?
Yeah, absolutely. Court is more backed up than it ever has been, so it takes longer for cases to be adjudicated. People aren't staying in jail all the time like they would have before, so you see repeat offenders for the same offenses, and the court really isn't able to remand them into custody and keep them away from society while we wait for their trial on their first or second offense, and they're allowed the opportunity at least to commit more offenses during that period.
And so as like me, I absolutely have no law enforcement training, anything like that. How could, for example, the general public, is there anything they can do to kind of help? You mentioned crimes down. Obviously, the obvious answer is don't commit a crime. But I mean, if there are things going on, how does the public, is there anything they can do to help facilitate the process from your side as far as?
The public can always assist us with investigations and assist the state's attorney's office with prosecution by providing good witness statements or being cooperative with police investigations. But there's nothing that the public can do now about the court's hands being tied.
Right.
It's just an unfortunate circumstance that is in legislation now, and we have to learn to live with it.
Right. Once again, our guest is Lincoln Police Chief Joe Meister. 217-648-5510, the number to call if you have questions, or you can send us an email, 4pm411@wlcnonline.com. It is 10 after the hour, so we'll go ahead and take our first break, and we will be back with Chief Meister right after this. This live video stream is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, and online at merealty.com. We're back on the 4 p.m. 411 with Lincoln Police Chief Joe Meister. Once again, if you have questions or comments, 217-648-5510, the number to call. Also, be sure to tune in tomorrow for the Viewpoint program with Dara Entwistle. She will be joined by guests from the Logan County Action Group, and specifically, I believe they're going to be talking about wind farm issues as well as CO2 pipelines. Looks like Bobby Jackson, among others, will be here as Dara's guest. That's at 8 a.m. tomorrow, 8 to 8:30 here on WLCN. Also, you can catch it live stream and through the Mixler app. But once again, as I said, we have Lincoln Police Chief Joe Meister here. We're talking about different aspects of what you deal with in terms of crime and in terms of public notification, I guess, and of what's going on. I asked you during the break, I'll ask you again, how safe is Lincoln as a community?
Lincoln is a relatively safe town in comparison to other jurisdictions our size. We do very well, but it's not and nowhere is completely safe. We experience violent crime in Lincoln just like they do in larger cities, Springfield, Jacksonville, or Springfield, Bloomington, places like that, but just at a lower rate. I guess it's more per capita type thing. What I will say is that the Lincoln Police Department and the Logan County Sheriff's Department does a fantastic job of addressing violent crime and weapons crimes. We have a good court system. Even if it's slow, it's not their fault. That's just the nature of the beast nowadays. I was thinking back of the last 4 homicides that we've had in Lincoln and Logan County. We've made an arrest in each one of those cases, and all but one of those arrests was immediate. So, so that's a pretty good clearance rate.
Absolutely. And we also talked during the break, you're also doing this, keeping the public safety, but you're shorthanded at the time as well.
Yep.
And where are you at in terms of staffing right now? 4
years running, we've been short-staffed. Right now, we're at 27, but not all of those officers count toward our staffing levels because some of them are in field training or in the academy still being trained. So we got to subtract those from those who actually count toward our staffing levels, and then as well as long-term injuries and things like that. We still struggle with that. The violence toward the police is a more common thing, so the more violence there is towards us, the more often we're going to get hurt and be down for a little while.
If the department was fully staffed, how many staff members would you have then?
28 officers sworn, and then we have 2 civilian employees, and that provides enough staff for each one of the patrol shifts to have 5 people. So there's 20 members there, 2 administrative officers, which is myself and the deputy chief, a couple of SROs for the schools, and then detectives for the detective bureau.
Okay. You mentioned violence toward police. I see that on social media and crazy clips on YouTube, but you're saying it's more prevalent here in Logan County and in Lincoln than it has been in past years. Is it just when you're in about to make an arrest or an arresting situation, or might it be just a common traffic stop or
any of those situations? But typically they all pertain to arrest situations, whether it's a traffic stop or a call for service. Usually when the fight happens is when the bad guy realizes he doesn't want to go to jail today. We also see a higher amount of mental health related incidents. That's growing exponentially, and I think some of the problem with that is the availability of controlled substances, that these people who are already suffering from an illness, and then you add drugs on top of that, and violence is going to happen. It's an unfortunate part of life, but it's one that we have to deal with.
Right. And so in your staffing, obviously you've got the officers there. Are there any resources you have available, like if you get a call and from the description of the situation, maybe it sounds like there might be some sort of a mental type of an issue. Mm-hmm. Do you have resources like, I don't know, mental health workers that you can take to the scene or have as sort of a reference for what your officers do?
Yes, so the last several months, Memorial Behavioral Health has provided us what's called the Mobile Crisis Response Team. These are social workers and mental health professionals that will actually come out on the street just like a police officer or a fireman or ambulance member would. We've used them extensively in situations that really aren't a police issue. They're just strictly a mental health issue. Mm-hmm. And they do a great job of providing their service. The issue that we have is they're not staffed fully. They don't have the funds yet to provide 24-hour service. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a Monday through Friday from 7 in the morning to 7 at night service, but it does help.
Sure. And as part of the police training, as folks go through the academy, mm-hmm. are you trained on that type of an issue of how to deal with the public and if there might be some sort of a mental stability situation? Yeah.
Most of our officers have all had the 40-hour crisis, it's called crisis intervention team training, mm-hmm. but we have to have annual training for crisis intervention response. That's an ongoing mandate, so every year we're going to different kind of training to learn how to better deal with a person in crisis.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Once again, our guest is Police Chief Joe Meister. 217-648-5510, the number to call if you have questions or comments for Chief Meister. We are at 20 after, so we'll go ahead and take our second break, and we'll be back with more with Chief Meister right after this. And we are back on the 4 p.m. 411 with Lincoln Police Chief Joe Meister. If you have questions, 217-648-5510, the number to call, or you can email us your questions, 4pm411 at WLCNonline.com. We've been talking about a wide variety of aspects of your job, things that you deal with, and other so more stressful parts of the job, I guess. So let's talk about something a little more fun. With the holidays approaching, I know the Lincoln Police Department usually does something around the holidays. more in a positive light than having to deal with the stressful things. Can you kind of tell us what sorts of activities the department takes part in around the holidays?
Sure. Yeah, we always enjoy participating in the city's Christmas parade. You'll see a lot of police officers out there. We'll have one posted at every intersection along the parade route, and then a few cars in the route itself. Make sure to stop and say hi and shake a hand if you'd like to meet one of your local officers. And then we do the Shop with the Cop program, which has been very successful. We have a large one for our community size, and if somebody knows a family in need is having a hard time this year, that has children that may not be as fortunate this Christmas, give us a call. You can promote that family in joining our program, and an officer will reach out to you to get that scheduled.
And so what exactly happens then once it is scheduled? Does a police officer come and take the people shopping, or do they kind of give you a list, or how does that work?
I think we do accept a list, but the police officer will take the child and their family shopping, walk through the store with them, and help pick out and carry things back that the child may want. So
okay, very cool. And if folks do know someone that they'd like to nominate for that, you said call the police department. What's the phone number there? The public
line is 732-2151. We can also be reached at lincolnpolice@lincolnil.gov through email, and then we'll fire off an email to the folks who run the program. It's usually our union guys, so our treasurer and president, and then some of the school resource officers and DARE officers usually participate in that.
Okay, so something more positive, and we mentioned the new year is coming. Talked about Shop with the Cop. What would be on your Christmas list for the department as chief if you got to sit on Santa's knee and say, Santa, for my department, I would really like to have fill in the blank.
A pile of qualified candidates.
Really?
Yeah.
And we mentioned your short staff, but
right. So we'll be opening up applications again soon. We're currently going through the process of hiring 2 new police officers. They're in the background phase of the hiring process, but I know that we'll have retirements coming in the future, and we need to be prepared to get those positions filled as quickly as we can. So we'll send out a public notification when the application process has been opened. You can get on the National Testing Network if you're not already a certified police officer. You can get on the National Testing Network and take our written exam, and then we'll call you for an interview. And if you happen to be a certified police officer, we just require an application before we begin the background phase of your hiring process.
And I believe it was actually maybe the Viewpoint program with when Bill Gossett was still here that you and Sheriff Landers were on talking about the application process is not just a matter of fill out an application and someone looks it over, maybe calls a couple of references, and within a week you're hired. It's definitely a much more extensive process.
Yeah. It's very extensive compared to what it was, let's say, in the 70s or 80s. The background process is more extensive. Obviously, in-depth interview with the candidate, psychological examination, which is a whole day-long event, physical and drug examinations, and talk to all your previous employers and friends and references. We go pretty far.
And I was trying to think. I think when you answered the question on Viewpoint, isn't it like roughly 8 months at least from application to
16 weeks in the from application to you're on your street as a full-fledged police officer? It's a year.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
okay.
Depending on when we can make the hire, but and how quickly we can get all the background stuff done. Mm-hmm. But it's 16 weeks in the academy, and then a minimum of 12 weeks of field training after that. So that process is several months in and of itself.
Wow. And we talked during break there, you said there were no new laws coming on the books that were really going to significantly impact the department or how you conduct your business.
No, we were lucky at Lincoln PD. Our city government was supportive of getting those, getting what was required of us set in place prior to the mandates. So with the Safety Act, there are certain training requirements and mandatory body cams. For our agency, we wouldn't have had to be outfitted with body cams yet, but we got ahead of the program there, and we're already outfitted with all that stuff. So those laws, when they are in effect for us, we're already in compliance with them.
And so how is that aspect of it going, the body cams? Because I know it was a significant expense for the cameras as well as the storage space to house all the video footage and things like that. Have they, in your experience, have they proven beneficial and useful in terms of going about police activities?
Yes, they are great. All the officers love them. There were some people that were apprehensive because they had never worn a camera all the time. But all the officers are very supportive of it. It's another tool that we can use to help us write a report and remember the events accurately. It also protects the officer, and that's one of the things that's most well received about them. If there's a frivolous complaint, we can show that on a video in no time without conducting weeks of investigation.
Right.
So all around, very beneficial.
All right. And I was trying to think, I can't remember if this was how it wound up because there were so much discussion about the Safety Act, but what are the requirements as far as the camera, like if you get a call for an incident? Because I remember initially it was once you receive the call, you start the camera, and then it's not until pretty much things conclude when you shut it off. Is that still how things work? Pretty
much, if it's an enforcement contact. So if I stop a person on the street because I suspect that they may be involved in a crime, I need to be recording all the time. If it's in a person's private home and they're not comfortable with that, they can tell us to stop recording, but we have to document that was a request made by the homeowner. But if I'm just out in public and I say, "Hey, how you doing?" and shake a hand, we don't have to record all the time, just when an enforcement type situation is taking place or an investigation.
Yeah, I'm curious though, you mentioned that a citizen can ask not to record in their home.
Correct.
Just because of comfort reasons or?
Yeah, it's a private person's home, so you have an expectation of privacy there. Okay. You have called the government to join you in your home, so we do have the ability to turn our camera back on if we think the privacy interest isn't as great as what the evidence interest would be. Right. We can override that request, but then it can only be shared in certain circumstances.
Right. The greater good doctrine, I actually know about that one. Let's see. Well, it's 4:30, so wow, that kind of flew. So Chief Meister, thanks for joining us, and I guess next time you'll be number 4. We talked about it on the morning show. We don't have a 5 timers club like Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
So we don't have like a jacket or a lounge or anything.
I don't get
we can get you a donut or something. But thank you for being with us today. Once again, tune in tomorrow at 8 a.m. for Viewpoint when Dara Entwistle will have members from the Logan County Action Group, I believe is the name of it, from 8 to 8:30. They'll be talking about several different issues, and of course invite your calls and comments as well. But for now, this has been the 4 p.m. 411. I'm Loyd Kirby, and we will talk to you next week. This live video stream is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, and online at merealty.com. The preceding program is a presentation of WLCN 96.3 FM and WLCNonline.com.